Brand purpose is so incredibly powerful, right? And it has the potential to do so much. And it's so important because you look at the state of the world, the plight the planet is in, right? There has never been a greater need for a complete overhaul of institutions, right, around politics and social and educational. And so at the Palais, you are seeing tons of panels that are seeking to look at the area of kind of cause and purpose. And I think there is a distinction between the two, because cause is often a reaction to something that's kind of negative. And the question around purpose is, how do you shift companies into a space where they are putting it right at their DNA? Like, how do you act as a force for good and you don't simply kind of badge it?
So how does that work? I mean, sort of for a big media agency like OMD, how do you sort of work with your customers to make sure that they're involved with this process? How does that process work?
So every brief that we look at OMD is ultimately seeking to deliver better business outcomes. And when you think about what consumers care about, to truly understand them, what we're finding is the need for purpose is absolutely rising, right? We see, I think 2/3 of consumers will shift and buy from brands that are doing better. 50% will move to brands of parity as long as they are kind of reflecting of your values, right? You'll shift from one to the other. And so when you work with your clients, you say, okay, what are all of your objectives and how can you play in the purpose space if that is meaningful to you? And I think that question of where do you sit and what do you really want to do is critical, because there has to be a genuine commitment to it and all that it takes.
So how does it work from, what do you do in terms of matching up or advising or bringing certain, you know, does the brand bring you the idea? Do you bring the idea to them? Is it sort of a mix?
I think it's the best time is when it comes from radical collaboration, right? So you are totally transparent about what are your objectives, what may be your current projects or commitments, because lots of kind of brands have 5, 10, 20 different initiatives at play. But the question is, which ones are kind of relevant to amplify? Which ones do you potentially communicate more, and why, right? And what we do is we start to look at where can you affect culture most effectively, and also business outcomes, and where do you have the greatest space to show your impact. Because I think if you're truly measuring what you're doing and sharing that, making that kind of transparency and the effect on society, on the world, you have the greatest level of gain to be made from both purpose and profit, right? I don't think the two are at odds with each other.
And as far as performance and ROI, I guess, or KPI, different brands have different needs, but what is sort of a range of expectations that they would have?
So one of the biggest expectation sort of management setting things you have to do with your clients is to say the short term, 6 months, 12-month thing isn't going to be enough, right? You have to understand that some of these shifts, they take 2 to 3 years to have an effect, because you are requiring a different set of behaviors to be at stake. You take the best of brand building, but you're taking that to have a different impact, right? And I think that kind of shift from the short to the long term effect is something that our clients kind of get, right? They've heard the language before, but it's to then map it out and say, what are we going to measure today, right, in the short term that makes shareholders still go, yeah, I get that. That's still going to drive my business outcomes. But what am I going to do to share with my consumers to say, I am either being more sustainable, supportive of representation, or other kind of factors that are at play.